Okay. Today we are going to look at figures of speech, not in its entirety, but we'll start with the basics and we'll build on that in the next class. Okay. And why am I doing it in parts? Because I don't want to confuse you, right? Because there are certain figures of speech, if you see, can be a little tricky, and that's the kind of um, you know 1 out of 10 question is going to be a tricky question. So uh, some of our tricky questions actually do come from figures of speech. So unless you know the nuance and you take it in slowly, you may not be able to fully understand. So I've divided that in parts. Um, so until last semester, Lida ma'am was taking learn the rope session, but this semester I've decided to take it up. And how we are going to divide this is I'll give you one half of the session is going to be theory based. I'll very quickly tell you what uh, the key definitions and how to identify um the the core concepts discussed in that. We'll also quickly analyze examples and um, we'll see how these can be used in sentences and in our day-to-day conversations. Um, any topic. I'm not talking specifically about figure of speech, but any topic. This is how we're going to be looking at. That's the first half. The second half is going to be fully drill, in the sense that we are going to take up questions and we are going to discuss the answers together. So that'll also be like a sample version of the kind of questions that you get for your assignments and even for your exams, right? Um, so let's begin, right? So what is a figure of speech? As you see here in the slide, it's a device that's used in a non-literal way, right, to create special effects or special meanings, um, even to emphasize it a little better. So it basically makes a language more vivid or imaginative, sometimes even emotional or persuasive. So what's the difference between literal and figurative? An example will be when I say he is very brave. That's there's nothing hidden in that. There is nothing figurative, right? You're very direct with your expression. Whereas when I could say something like he's a lion in the battle. Um, that is figurative because there I'm using it as a metaphor. I'm talking about his bravery. Um, by comparing it to how a lion could be um, in a battle, right? Um, so that is the difference between literal and figurative. So figures of speech is never um, expressed in a literal way. You Anything that is non-literal um, comes under figure of speech, and there are many classifications in figures of speech, and we're going to look at each one of that, right? Let's quickly begin with the first major one, which is simile, right? um, what does a simile do? It compares two unlike things. That's very important for you to remember. Unlike things, right? And the cue words are words like, as, or even as and as, which is I'll give you an example. As brave as a lion. So here two as is used, right? Um, Similarly, something like runs like the wind. So someone is compared to the wind, right? Using the word like. So hence it's a simile. Um, can somebody give more examples apart from the one that you see here? If I say he is a lion, is it a simile?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Why?
Because
It's a
lion
metaphor.
as or
Yeah. So the clue is it is not a direct comparison, right? Here you're comparing unlike things using like or as. Okay, so that part is clear. So I'm moving from simile. Anyone any doubts about simile? Did I make myself clear? Okay, I'm taking the silence as a everything clear with simile. Now comes metaphor, right? Metaphor also compares two unlike things without using like or as. So mostly it's going to be an is. So I could say time is a thief, right? The world is a stage. Her voice is music. Um, One slight difference between a smiley, a simile and a metaphor is that um, there is a direct comparison when it comes to simile, and there is implied comparison when it comes to metaphor. For example, time and thief has no direct cannot be directly compared, whereas if you see something like uh, brave and lion is considered to be a brave animal, right? um, ice is considered cold. So when it comes to simile, when you use like and as, it's definitely a direct comparison, whereas metaphor can have implied comparisons, like the world and the stage uh, is not directly related. Okay, next comes personification, that is giving uh, human qualities to non-human things. Example is the wind whispered. Can the wind really whisper? No. But here you are attributing the quality of speech to a non-living thing like wind. It gives deeper meaning. This is something that a lot of poets use. Um, you could say the sun smiled, the leaves danced. So a quick identification test is to know whether something is personification is to actually ask, can this thing really do this? For example, the wind whispered. Can the wind truly whisper? The sun smiled. Can the sun really smile? So if your answer is no, then it is personification, right? So hyperbole is a deliberate exaggeration for emphasis. Um, for example, if you say things like, I've told you a million times. Is it possible to tell somebody million times? No, it's an exaggeration, right? Or even to say, this bag weighs a ton. Um, that is an exaggeration. Or to say the homework took forever. It's not possible for someone to do the homework forever. Or even say, um, I'm so hungry that I could eat a horse. This is a standard phrase used by native speakers. it's not possible, or it's an exaggeration to say that first of all, people don't eat a horse, and second, even if someone tries to, it's not possible to eat an entire horse. So this is not supposed to be taken literally, right? Next is alliteration, which is the repetition of the same initial consonant sound in nearby words. Example: she sells seashells, right? So there is repetition of initial consonant sounds, sir, or let's say even two words are fine. Wild and woolly weather, right? So there is were and were, or busy buzzing bees. Ba sound is repeated. So this is a consonant sound. That's what I want you to keep in mind. Okay, same initial consonant sound is repeated. And one important key for you to look at is not to focus on the spelling but on the sound. Busy buzzing bees. So all of that starts with the consonant sound b, right? All of these words. She sells seashells, right? All of that starts with the consonant sound sa. Next comes oxymoron. What is an oxymoron? It is two contradictory words placed together. For example, deafening silence. Can silence deafen you?
No.
So that is not literal, right? It's when only when there is extreme noise, you are pushed to a feeling of deafening, right? But when I say something like deafening silence, uh, these are definitely two contradictory words coming together, and they act as an oxymoron. Bittersweet. They say it's a bittersweet experience, right? Um, how can something be both bitter and sweet? But it does convey a meaning, right? Meaning it was a mixed experience of you know f- feeling good and feeling bad. You could say that uh, in a situation where your friend is moving abroad for the best, and uh, you could say the final parting moments were bittersweet because um, it's also for the good that the person is moving, but at the same time you're sad that you may not be the person won't be physically present around you. So in that way, um, bittersweet does bring out its meaning, right? An open secret, a secret is not supposed to be open, but um, again, when you bring together words open and secret, it becomes an oxymoron. Next is an idiom, which is fixed expression with figurative meaning. That is the meaning that is different from the literal meaning. For example, let's say break the ice. uh, when you say break the ice, it means starting a conversation. It has got nothing to actually the very act of breaking open a piece of um, ice, or spill the beans, um, which means to reveal a secret. Spilling the very act of spilling beans on the floor has got nothing to do with the figurative meaning of spilling the beans, which is revealing secret. So in that way, these fixed expressions with figurative meanings are called idioms. Then comes um, Paradox. Um, Paradox is a statement that actually appears contradictory or absurd, but it reveals a deeper truth when carefully understood. For example, um, less is more, right? So when you hear that first, you feel like something is wrong about this. What do you mean by less is more? But it makes sense when you reflect on it, right? Uh, a good example is, let's say, you buy a lot of gold with the money that you have. You store it at home. You lose your peace over it. You're scared of someone stealing it. In that context, you begin wondering about, um, you know, the money that's supposed to give you a sense of security right now is giving me insecurity. So maybe I am better off without that gold, right? In which case, I can justify less is more, right? So it has a deeper meaning. That's what I'm saying. A paradox has a deeper meaning, but on the surface level, it appears contradictory. Like less cannot be more, but less can be more if you look at it carefully, if you reflect upon it carefully. Next is, um, the child is father of the man. This is a line from a poem written by Wordsworth. Child cannot literally be father, right? But what does it indicate? That childhood shapes adulthood. So that is what you mean by paradox. Because there is a contradiction, and the contradiction is child and father. In the previous example, the contradiction is less and more. Um, the third example, I must be cruel to be kind. Cruel and kind are the contradiction here. So, what I want you to understand is, um paradox is not a simple contradiction, right? And paradox is not oxymoron because it's generally not as short as oxymoron. Um, and Yeah, so here I've given in the box the difference between paradox and oxymoron. In paradox generally has a deeper truth and meaning to it, whereas oxymoron is mostly a stylistic contrast. Um, for example, what was the oxymorons that we discussed? Um, give me a give me an
And
example.
bittersweet. It's a bittersweet experience.
Yeah, bittersweet. Um, there is nothing um, philosophical or deeper in that, right? It's mostly stylistic. That's what I mean. When there isn't a hidden deeper truth into that, then you got to understand that it's oxymoron. And another uh, way of looking or distinguishing paradox from oxymoron is generally two words, right? And paradox generally is a full statement. And um, next, just give me 10 seconds, I'll be back. Yeah, I'm back. Next is the antithesis. It's a figure of speech in which contrasting ideas are placed in parallel grammatical structure to highlight the contrast. For example, um, uh, speech is silver, but silence is golden. So here, what are the opposites placed side by side?
Speech and silence.
Speech and silence. Anything else?
Silver and gold.
Yeah. Yeah, yes. Right. Many are called, but few are chosen. Um,
Many and few.
Many and few, yes. Called versus chosen, right? And if you see the look at the grammatical structure, right? It's placed very neatly. Both sides are balanced. There's silver, speech is silver, and then silence is golden. Many are called, few are chosen. To err is human, to forgive divine. So in that way, if you look at it, there's a certain kind of balancing in the phrasing, and there's also a parallel structure, and then there's also opposites placed side by side, right? And a clear contrast. So this is how you distinguish antithesis from
Ma'am,
paradox. Yeah.
less is more. Which figure of speech is present over here?
Yeah.
Less is more. Which figure of speech is present over here?
You're not audible, dear. Can you please be a little more audible?
Less. Am I audible right now?
Yeah. Please try it now.
Less is more.
Yeah.
Which figure of speech is here?
Less is more is paradox.
Can't we say oxymoron?
Oxymoron is generally two words. And why is it not an oxymoron? It's also because um, less is more has a deeper meaning to it, a philosophical meaning to it, a deeper truth into it, which oxymoron won't have. What does less is more mean?
Okay.
Do you understand the difference? Meaning, let's take it in. This is something I explained just now. Let's take the example of minimalism, right? A lot of, if you see, celebrity houses and dressing and all that, a lot of people do very commonly talk about, oh, I try to be minimalist in my dressing, or oh, I try to be minimalist in the way I design my house. Why do why is there a minimalism trend? Because people feel that it's a lot of energy gets drained in the process of having a lot of things, which means it's also managing a lot of things. So the less you have, not in terms of money as such, but the less things you have around you, right, the more peace you have. So this is something that comes from life experience, and it has a deeper philosophical meaning to it, and therefore it is called a paradox and not uh, an oxymoron. Okay.
Ma'am,
Now,
so
yeah,
paradox, oxymoron, and antithesis, all three are dealing with the opposites.
Yes.
But
Contrast. Yes.
yeah, contrast and oxymoron is just generally two words.
Two words. Yes. Doesn't
Paradox.
have a deeper meaning to it.
Huh.
The paradox has a deeper meaning to it. Antithesis has a uh, particular structure to it, contrasting ideas placed in a parallel grammatical structure. So opposites placed side by side.
Yes, okay, ma'am.
Here, if I say, let's take paradox, the child is father of the man. There is contrast in this sentence, but that is very different from something like speech is silver, but silence is golden. Because the structure of this is very different from child is father of the man, right? You don't have this grammatical structure to it. uh, I mean, the grammatical structure is what is lacking, grammatical structure of two opposite side by side. And having a balanced structure and a clear contrast is what is lacking in a paradox. Okay, so let's look at the difference between paradox and antithesis. Paradox has very clear contradiction, sorry, apparent contradiction, and antithesis is clear contrast or contradiction. Paradox has a hidden truth to it, whereas antithesis emphasizes on the contrast that is given in the sentence. Um you're not looking at the deeper philosophical meaning, but rather what is more important in an antithesis is how words are arranged in a similar fashion, bringing out the contrast. One part, the way one part is presented will the other part of the sentence will also have. For example, speech is, see, the sentence, if you look, first sentence, speech is silver but silence is golden. uh, Two sentences are connected by but, right? And uh, so in that way, if you see, there are two sentences, speech is silver, silence is golden. In the place of speech there is silence, which is a contrast. In the place of silver there is golden, which is again another contrast. So do you see how it is structured? There is a balance in the structure. um, okay, coming to structure may not be parallel. When it comes to paradox, best example is I must be cruel to be kind. uh, there is no parallel structure here, it's just a simple plain sentence. But if you see something like to err is human, to forgive divine, there is definitely a parallel structure in that. The purpose of a paradox is to think, it's thought provoking, whereas in this it's just used to emphasize, right? um, okay, so with this, the first half in terms of you know uh, explaining the content comes to an end. Now I'll ask you questions and we'll have clarity around, um, I'll have a clarity whether you understood, right? And we'll work it out together and see if this section is clear. um, for the practice, okay. um, so identify the figure of speech. The first one is the wind whispered through the trees. What is it?
Ma'am, personification.
Helpful.
Hmm?
Personification.
Anybody else with anything else? Any other answers? Also, please feel free to um, just express whatever comes to your mind. Of course, think. I'm not saying mindlessly, um, you know, answer the question. That's not what I mean. But don't hold back, because this is a space where we got to clarify your doubts. That's the whole point of this. I'm explaining and I'm here to explain the content, and I'm also here to clarify the doubts. It's the whole point of doing the activity. Right? So is there anything other than personification that you see in this? Okay, in which case let me just stop sharing my screen. Okay. Anybody? You can put it in the chat box as well. Personification. Anything else other than personification?
Ma'am, can you repeat the question once more?
The wind whispered through the trees.
Yeah, it's personification only.
Yes, that's the right answer. Personification. She is as bright as the sun.
Ma'am, simile.
Simile.
Anybody else? Any other answer? Why is it a simile?
Because we are comparing here two
Yes.
unassociated things.
Yeah, and but okay, to associated things. Okay, fine. Yeah, that's a clear explanation. Also, another point is as bright as, right? So the as and as part. Um, when I say busy buzzing bees filled the garden,
Alliteration.
Alliteration.
why is it an alliteration?
Because it contains the
Ma'am,
Because
same.
the
of
repeat B sound.
Repeating burr sound. It's not B sound, it's burr sound. Um, and what's the point? What's a key definition of alliteration? If you, what's the key point that you need to keep in mind when I say alliteration? What gets repeated?
Ma'am, consonant at the
Ma'am,
beginning.
consonant.
At the beginning of the words.
Yes, consonant sound. Okay. Um, he spilled the beans about the surprise. What is it? He spilled the beans about the surprise. Ajay Varma says idiom.
Ma'am, idiom.
Idiom. What's the idiom here?
Spill the bean.
Yeah, spill the beans. What's the meaning of spill the beans?
Reveal the secret.
Revealing the secret, yes.
can you please repeat the idioms?
What is it?
Idioms, ma'am.
You want that to be explained? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so idiom is a set expression which has no literal meaning. For example, spill the beans, right? It means revealing a secret. Revealing a secret has got nothing to do with the words spill the beans. What's a literal act of spilling the beans? You're spilling the beans on the floor, right? Has that got anything to do with secrets? No. So this is a set expression that has a definite meaning, and it's not based on contrast. It's not a literal. It doesn't indicate literal meaning. That is what an idiom means. Okay. Life is a roller coaster ride.
Ma'am, paradox.
Uh,
Ma'am,
life,
metaphor. Ma'am, metaphor.
yeah, metaphor. Yes. Why did you feel it is a paradox?
Ma'am, initially I felt that we are comparing something, but then I realized there is no comparison.
Yeah, it is not a paradox because there is no contrast. Life and roller coaster is not a contrast. Okay, so this can be little tricky. This is why I said, this is why I didn't want to bring more figures of speech. If you see in the first week content, you have more figures of speech. I'll bring that in the next class, so that I need you to have clarity on this first, so that we'll build on this clarity in the next class. Otherwise, you'll be too confused because there are more coming. Okay. So did I make myself clear with why um, life is a roller coaster ride? It's not a paradox.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because they're not in contrast. Okay, paradox, antithesis, oxymoron, they're all contrasts. That's the thing that you need to keep in mind. Um, it happens once in a blue moon.
Idiom.
Yeah.
Yeah, idiom.
What does once in a blue moon mean?
Once in a
Happen,
while or rare.
happens
Rarely.
in
Yes. Yes, it happens rarely. Yeah. Um, okay. Now, the moon smiled at the children.
and personification.
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 Yes, personification. He is as busy as a bee.
Simile.
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 Yes. Time is a great healer.
Ma'am, metaphor.
Metaphor.
Yes. Metaphor.
Metaphor.
I told you 1,000 times.
Hyperbole.
Huh?
Hyperbole.
Yeah.
Hyperbole.
Hyperbole. Yes, hyperbole. Um, what is hyperbole?
Ma'am, when we say
Exaggeration.
something,
State.
Uh, exaggeration. That's the word I want you to keep in mind, okay? Exaggeration. Uh, sweet silence filled the room. I'll give you the options: oxymoron, alliteration, idiom.
Oxymoron.
ma'am, alliteration.
Hmm. Uh, anything else? How many say it is oxymoron? You can raise your hands. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Why do you say it is not alliteration?
Ma'am,
Any
here
explanation?
the two opposite concepts are there, like silence, how the silence filled the room, like this silence and filled the room.
Yes,
Ma'am,
that you're
also there's
saying.
no similar kind of sounds.
Sweet silence. Sweet silence. No. Sweet silence, yes. if you want to look at it, it can be an alliteration because it starts with both the words start with sir sound. Sweet and silence. Sweet. Sir. Sweet. Sweet. Silence. No, both starts with sir. But you also got to look at the meaning, right? And what comes out of it is there is a contrast. Sweet silence. Can silence be sweet? Yes, I am not come to sibilance yet. Um, so sibilance is something that starts with sir sound specifically. It's so alliteration can be classified into two types, and one of the type is sibilance, where um, when the initial sound starts with sir, then it is called sibilance. It's a form of alliteration. So if you, but clearly if you see, I mean, the simple answer is yes, it can also be seen as an alliteration because right now it starts with two consonant sounds. But more importantly, what comes obviously on your face, apart from alliteration or beyond alliteration, is oxymoron, right? Because meaning wise, they are in contrast. Because silence is always portrayed as something that is an indication of grief, right? The silence is heavy and all that. So it cannot be sweet silence. And when you call something sweet silence, then it definitely comes as contrast, and two words in contrast is definitely oxymoron. Okay. The stars winged at us.
Please repeat.
The stars winked at us.
Personification.
Personification, yes. Personification, yes. No doubt, right? She runs like a lightning.
That's simile.
Simile.
Okay. The wind howled all night.
Personification.
What?
Yes. The wind howled all night. He is as cool as ice.
Simile.
Simile.
Hmm. That's true, but I'm also wondering, and you try to, this is a question that I'm getting, okay? Why is it not a hyperbole? Can someone explain it to me? He's as
Ma'am,
cool
can
as
you
ice.
repeat the question?
Can you please repeat the question?
He is as cool as ice. What is it? I asked. Everyone told smiley. Sorry. Oh, why do I just keep saying smiley? I'm so sorry about this. This is the last thing that I should say as an English teacher. Simile, but yeah. Why is it a simile? As is used. Yes. Yes. Because it follows a standard structure of as the noun or the verb and then follows the as, right? He's as cool as ice. So therefore simile and not hyperbole, because it could sound exaggerated, but look at the structure. Looking at it structurally, you can say it is simile. Mm, he is a walking encyclopedia.
Metaphor.
Um,
Ma'am, hyperbole.
a,
Or ma'am,
he,
personification.
no. Why is it not a personification?
Ma'am, it said that it's a walking encyclopedia. So, I mean, encyclopedia as a
No,
book, and it's taken as walking.
no, but what
But
is the
he's
subject
mentioned
here?
there, na?
Okay, let me write this in the chat box. He is a walking encyclopedia. Right. Now, because this is a complete sentence, um, what is compared to the walking encyclopedia?
The person.
A
The
person, he.
person, right? He, right? So here you are not looking at what is personification. What's a definition of personification? When a non-human entity is given human-like traits. But this is the opposite here, right? The man is being compared to a non-human thing. So that is not personification. Now, if I keep only the words walking encyclopedia without the context, then yes, it can be. But again, there is no literal meaning here. It cannot be personification because uh, you can't say encyclopedia walks. Did you get that point? Did you get that point?
Yes, ma'am.
Because walking encyclopedia has a clear meaning. That is someone who is very knowledgeable and informative, basically, very informative. So, therefore, it is not personification because personification is attributing human-like traits to non-living things, and it's a vice versa here. So, it is not personification ruled out. Now, between somebody said, how many of you feel it is simile? Sorry, it is a metaphor and not hyperbole. Three hands. Okay, so the rest of you feel it is hyperbole. Okay, so let me look at that closely. He is a walking encyclopedia. Can definitely become a metaphor, no doubt about it, because he's compared to something that becomes what is known as an informative or a knowledgeable person. Now the question is it also a hyperbole? It can be a hyperbole based on, yes, it can be both. It can be both actually. Commonsensically looking, because this is also a set phrase to say that someone is informative, right? Uh, is that an exaggerated way of putting it? Yes. Uh, But if I have to choose between two, this definitely goes with metaphor, because there's no confusion around it. This has a structure of a metaphor. What is the meaning of what's the standard definition of metaphor? What's the difference between a metaphor and a simile?
Metaphor is a direct comparison, whereas simile is you contrast it with it.
Okay. Anything else around that?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Any of you having more insights on this?
Ma'am.
Saying, ma'am, this is what I feel about this. Yeah.
Ma'am, is it can be idiom also? Like a walking encyclopedia is a common English idiom.
Is walking encyclopedia an idiom? I have to check. Walking encyclopedia. Hmm. It is an idiom. Okay, so but yeah, so if you specifically look at just walking encyclopedia, yes, it has idiom also incorporated in the sentence. But if you look at the whole sentence as a structure, this is a comparison. So when there is a comparison, um, you obviously you ask whether it is a contrast, or something that is compared in a not so contrasting way. So then you feel that, okay, this doesn't fall under the category of, let's say, antithesis, or because that is all on contrast, right? Or all of that antithesis and paradox and all that falls in the contrast side. So this doesn't come anywhere close to that. So then what you have is, um, when there is a comparison, it's always between simile and metaphor, uh, because now you have like the whole sentence structure, right? The whole sentence here, um, and because it's a direct comparison, right? um, this is more a metaphor and not a simile, right? So between that you arrive at the conclusion, metaphor. Now the question is about hyperbole. Is that an exaggeration? Can you call anybody in this world, um, or even if you take the smartest person that you know, if you call that person a walking encyclopedia, is that an exaggeration? Or do you really mean that, or is that person even beyond encyclopedia? So based on the context, you have the answer whether it is a hyperbole or not, right? So it is safe to go with metaphor. Did I make myself clear on that? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Um, he is glued to the screen. He is glued to the screen. What is that?
Personification.
Personification.
Ma'am, hyperbole.
He is personification. Why do you feel it is a it is personified?
Ma'am, hyperbole.
Yeah, hyperbole, definitely. It's an exaggeration. But it can also be a metaphor.
Ma'am, why metaphor?
Look at the structure. Look at the structure. He is. What does glued to the screen mean?
He's watching the screen consistently.
Constantly. Yes.
But ma'am,
Meaning he's.
it cannot be metaphor. We are not like comparing him with something.
Yes, that is partly true. Therefore, the right answer is hyperbole. But structurally, if you look at it, right, he is glued to the screen has the structure of a metaphor where you can say that he is addicted and this addicted to this. Okay, how do I put it? I get it in my head. I'm trying to phrase it so that it comes out. Mm, he is glued to the screen. What can be the word that can replace glued to the screen? I don't want something that starts with a verb. If it's something with a noun, then you have the structure of a metaphor.
Oh. Can't we say stick?
He is.
Stick to the screen.
No, that again is a verb. Okay, so in here, no, the let's go with hyperbole. That's the safest thing. But I sense that if I can find a noun, right, that talks about his quality, or an adjective that talks about his quality as someone who is addicted to this, then it has a structure of a metaphor. But now that the sentence is this way, right, and it clearly is hyperbole, there is no doubt about it. So you don't have to go with the far-fetched hook to the screen. All that is starting with a verb. I want a noun to describe a person who is addicted to the phone all the time. But I'm telling you don't have to look at it, because right now when you have an obvious answer, go with that. You don't have to look at the complicated one. What I'm trying to explain is clear answer is hyperbole. And now if you want to look beyond the obvious, I'm saying this has a structure. This can have a structure of a metaphor. He is screen stuck. He is screen stuck. If I say that, screen stuck. No, the obvious answer is hyperbole. Let's not complicate it. I'll see in the next class. I'll see if I can take this question up, and what is running in my mind. If I can probably make you see, then. But here the simple answer is, let me not complicate this. Here the simple answer is, we have an obvious answer here, which is what? What is the obvious answer here? He is glued to the screen. Yes, hyperbole.
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 So when you have that, then you don't have to look at how I'm looking at it, right? That this has a structure that can go as a metaphor. So probably that line of thought need not come in the first place, is what I'm saying. Unless you want to research on this and you're too interested in this. The angry storm attack the coast.
Ma'am, can you please repeat the question?
The angry storm attacked the coast.
Personification?
Yes.
Personification.
Okay. Are you done with the? Is it in English one that you have idioms? Are you done with the idioms? There are 2 modules exclusively on idioms.
It comes in week 3, Kartika. This week it will be released.
English 1 or English 2?
English 1.
Okay. Okay. So I'm not getting into idioms in detail. I had few questions on idioms, but I'll ask you 3-4 questions around um, paradox and antithesis, right? Okay. The more you know, the less you understand.
Paradox.
Paradox.
Paradox. Why is it not an antithesis? Hidden meaning or truth? Yes. Now, if you look at the structure, it has a structure of an antithesis. But what is lacking is the hidden meaning. Now, one other thing that you can say this clearly is a paradox and not an antithesis is because um, more and less is definitely contrast, no doubt about it. But between know and understand, let me type the sentence here. The more you know, the less you understand. Right? Between know and understand, there is no contrast. So, in which case, we call this a paradox. I can resist everything except temptation. Paradox or antithesis? I can resist everything except uh, temptation.
Paradox.
Why paradox?
Ma'am,
How
because
did
in
you arrive at that
antithesis,
answer?
ma'am, in
Because
antithesis, it has a specific grammatical structure.
yeah, you don't see that here. Okay. Okay. The only constant is change.
Paradox.
Paradox.
Um, Praveen, for which one did you say not sure? The previous one or the only constant is change one? I'll help you understand. Okay, if you have doubts around it, just type it in the chat box and I'll help you understand. Okay. The only constant is change. Okay, but now it is clear. Okay, fine. Then it's fine. The only constant is change is a paradox because why is it a paradox? Hidden meaning, yes.
It has a hidden truth.
And then uh, it's not an antithesis because it doesn't have a parallel structure. Now, united we stand, divided we fall.
Oxymoron.
United we stand, divided we fall.
Antithesis.
Antithesis.
Antithesis. Why is it not an oxymoron?
Because it's not just two words and a
Yeah.
sentence.
Use a
Yeah.
grammatical pattern.
And then look at the parallel structure. United has an opposite word, has a contrast divided. Stand has an opposite word, fall. The beginning of the end. Paradox or antithesis?
Paradox.
Paradox.
Okay. So I think you have done well. We have exceeded 9 minutes. Where can you find the recordings of this lecture?
Ma'am, I have shared one question. Can you please answer that?
Yeah,
It's practice assignment question.
practice assignment question. Okay, please
Yeah,
ask.
ma'am. I have shared in the chat.
Shared in the chat. Sit down. Sit down a while and let us once again assail your ears. Sit down a while and let us once again assail your ears. That are so fortified against our story, what we have.
Ma'am, in my opinion, it is assonance. Like again, assail, repeating vowel sound.
Again assail. Sit down a while. No, here you're not going to look at just one or two words, particularly when the whole thing is given. As you keep reading it aloud multiple times, you got to know whether consonant sounds are coming um more often or repeated more often than vowel sounds. What is coming obvious. So let me just read out. Sit down a while and let us again assail your ears. See, I see the sound sir being repeated, but not as a first sound, in which case it is not sibilance for sure. And I'm not taking assonance because as I'm reading it, I don't find just vowel sounds coming in. What I, in fact, what I feel is the sound sa is getting repeated multiple times. Sit down a while. Let us. Sa sound is repeatedly coming. Once again, assail your ears that are so fortified against our story that we have tonight seen. Sir is getting repeated a lot, which means, and because it doesn't start with the sir sound, I mean, the sir sound doesn't come at the beginning of the words. It is consonants, I feel.
Ma'am, sir sound comes like in sit and us two times.
Sit, us. When I say us, the sir sound gets prominent.
Yeah.
In assail, sir sound gets prominent. Ears, sir sound gets prominent. Against us, sir keeps repeating more than any other consonant sounds, I feel.
Ma'am, like the answer which is given there
Hmm.
is sibilance.
Sibilance, see the sound sir is repeating, but for something to be sibilance, right? They say it has to start with the word sir. It's like two or three words need to begin with sir sound. But here, the sir being repeated multiple times does not always come at the beginning of a sound. I'll check with the team and see whether it has to be replaced or if there is any mistake in my understanding. I'll get back to you on this, okay?
Ma'am, the main difference between sibilance, like it comes in the first, like starting of the word.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, it's practice assignment question fourth.
Okay, I'll check. Aishwarya, please make a note of that, okay? Um, okay. Okay, so we will take this question also in our next session because figures of speech is very important. Um, okay, you have questions on pun and all that, right? See,
Ma'am,
pun is something that is used to, put words together that can sound funny, right? So, in that way, yes, can February, March, no, but April, May is a pun. But it doesn't make sense actually. What do you mean by can February, March? Like March, um, not in the sense of the month March, but marching as walking, right? Uh, but it doesn't make sense as a question. But it's the play of words to make it sound humorous. That is called pun.
ma'am,
Yeah,
ma'am, where we can find the recording of this lecture as I was unable to attend it.
from the beginning. Okay.
Yeah.
Aishwarya, where is this put up?
I'll give the link in the chat. Playlist link.
Your voice is not audible.
Am I audible now?
Yeah,
He asked for the session's recording, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I'm giving the link in the chat box. I'll just.
In the chat box.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. No, but is there any other way that students can have access to this?
It'll be like the video will be uploaded to YouTube, and the playlist link is available on the calendar as well as on the portal under the important links tab.
Yeah. So is that clear?
Yes, ma'am. But no videos is showing in that blog. I have also having that link of playlist, but
Today is the first session. The recording isn't over yet. It'll be uploaded
okay,
tomorrow.
okay. As one class also have done of English 1 and 2. What was that
Okay,
about?
that comes in a different playlist. Since that is a combined live session, you have a different link for that. That again, you can find it on the calendar. I'll give it here for your reference.
Okay, okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. So I hope we have had some clarity on the concepts that we discussed today. We will, in the next session, definitely discuss the remaining um, figures of speech and a few other concepts from the same week. The idea is also to make sure that any important concepts that can be a little confusing, we'll clarify it, right? So with that, let's wind it up here. Let's wind up the session here. I wish you all a great evening. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Have
you,
a nice
ma'am.
day.